Welcome to the NCDWI Guy podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle, and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI Guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 225 of the NCDWI Guy podcast. On today's episode, I am offering some reflections of changes that I see coming down the pike in the legal industry, somewhat based off of a looking back at my years of practice, and then some a little bit more in the crystal ball method. So here's what the predictions are from Jake Minnick in the legal future for criminal defense practitioners. So this idea kind of came to me last week. Last Tuesday, I was on a long run on the Appalachian Trail because Tuesday morning last week was my birthday. And so I went out on a birthday run, turned 39 this year. So I joked with the team at the office that this is my last year of being eligible to be a top 40 under 40 attorney. So the several thousand legal organizations that celebrate top 40 under 40, this is your last year that you can solicit me to become a member of your list and pay several $100s for a meaningless plaque. I don't plan on signing up, but if you do want to send me a letter, this is the last year of my eligibility. So I'll be more than happy to receive your letter and throw said letter into the garbage can, because that's how much I value that designation of being a top 40 under 40 lawyer. Completely meaningless, but mostly meaningless, at least for the vast majority of organizations that send that letter out. So next year, I am hoping to be solicited for the first time in my career by the top 100 under 100 Lawyers Association. That is my goal, is to become a member of the top 100 under 100, and I have 60 years to stay in that framework. So hopefully, beginning in 2025, I'll start receiving the letter that I have been actually waiting for from the organizations that celebrate our nation's top 100 under 100. But anyways, during this run, I was reflecting back. It was August of 2009 that I received notice from the North Carolina Board of State Bar Examiners that I had passed the bar exam. So 15 years ago was the real moment of beginning practice. And so I've had 15 years in the legal profession. It's been a real blessing. It has been amazing to get to know my colleagues in practice. It has been an absolute honor serving clients over this past 15 years. It has been an amazing privilege to work with the team that I have worked with over the years here at our firm. Unbelievable friendships created on this team, and there are several members of our team that are kind of my personal heroes, that are people that I am basing caricature, not caricature, that's a bad framework for it. They are the models of character that I am emulating in my personal life. And so I've just been very blessed with colleagues, with clients, with team members during this past decade and a half of practicing law. Amazing amount of lessons learned. And so as I was on this run, I was kind of thinking about that and kind of trying to see what will the practice of law look like over the next 15 years? What is going to be kind of the major shifts within the legal profession that are coming down the pike? And so a couple of thoughts for that. I've got three different kind of focal areas. Number one is client experience, changes in that regard. Number two is the speed of learning, really speed of kind of technological learning that's going to be required for lawyers, and doing that in a kind of mastermind setting, because you're not going to be able to keep up by yourself. And then number three is going to be changes in law firm ownership. And before you get all crazed about that last one, I'm not even predicting North Carolina is going to allow that non-lawyers own law firms within this state, although I think that that is very possible. But regardless of whether or not North Carolina jumps aboard the ever increasing number of states that are allowing non-lawyer ownership, it is going to change the way that the practice of law operates in North Carolina regardless. So we're going to talk about what those changes look like. So changes are coming. We don't operate in a stagnant marketplace. We don't operate in a kind of constant space, constant business world, constant market that is never increasing or changing or evolving. We are in a world of change and constant change. So I'm going to start off by talking about the client experience. So in regards to the client experience, this is what I want to kind of focus in on. When we'll talk about this a little bit, also in the technology space, but it is kind of, there's a little bit of debate about which law firm had the first website, exactly when that went off the ground. But there's several pages that I found that said a business firm opened or launched the first legal website in 1994. So again, 15 years back in 2009, I passed the bar. So that's been 15 years. 15 years prior to me passing the bar, the first legal website was launched. So 15 years before I started practicing was the first legal website. If you go back 16 years or so, there's no law firms on the internet. No law practices that you could find searching online. None of that existed. And so when you think about how are lawyers staying in line? How are lawyers? How is it that lawyers didn't basically totally manipulate and destroy their clients' lives and steal and all of these things? It was mostly managed by the Bar Association. The bar was the disciplinary organization that was designed to keep lawyers from basically hurting their clients, designed to keep lawyers kind of in a space of doing the right things. And so in certain situations, and we obviously still see this currently, but in certain situations, the bar has to bring its stick out and basically keep lawyers in line, or basically remove lawyers from the practice of law that are not in line with the kind of ethical obligations of practice, that are not doing their clients well, so to speak. That has massively changed in terms of who is keeping lawyers in line, because currently the major organization that is keeping lawyers in line is GOOGLE, Google. Google is the new disciplinary association for lawyers, because on Google, Google is the largest entity in the United States from a review standpoint. Google reviews are everywhere, right? They are for all businesses, restaurants, hotels, service industry, uh, uh, any type of business that is providing a service is getting some sort of a review process administered, generally speaking, through Google. And so if you are doing your clients bad in today's world, yes, if you're doing it really bad, you may end up with a bar sanction. But not all bad work leads to bar sanctions. Not all crappy legal work leads to bar sanctions. But what crappy legal work does lead to is negative reviews. And that is the mechanism currently, the best mechanism, the largest mechanism for keeping attorneys doing good, not just not violating ethical rules, but doing good work. And pretty soon the bar is going to be set high for doing great work, right? I mean, the bar is set significantly high. And I'll tell you, I mean, the standard is ever changing. So we got a negative review at the office a couple of weeks back based on somebody calling in, us providing a referral for that client because we didn't handle the type of case that they had, and sending them to another lawyer. And basically the reviewer said, person didn't hear my full story, were very short with me, and sent me to somebody else, was their perception. And again, I don't know that it was the absolute best referral recommendation that we have ever given, but we answered the phone in real time. We gave the person a recommendation of who to call, and made a recommendation to another lawyer that we trusted in town. And so, in the past, not calling somebody back within 2 weeks may or not be grounds for a bar sanction if it's done on a repeated basis. But certainly the expectation would not be that you've got to be, absolutely cheerful on the phone. You have to be helpful with the client, even if you can't help with their case. You've got to give a solid legal recommendation. That wouldn't have been expected. It's definitely not expected even currently from the bar standpoint. But what I'm trying to say is that from a client's perspective, the level of service, the bar of service has been elevated. And if we are not responding to that elevated bar of service, we are in big trouble, because the Google review space is currently what is best keeping all businesses, including law businesses, on their toes. You have to provide not just decent service so that you don't get sanctioned, not just non-crappy service, but you have to provide great service or your business will die. And so that has changed significantly. I don't know exactly when Google reviews started. I know Gmail began in 2004. I don't know exactly when Google reviews started, but certainly it has been within the last, around the time that I started practicing, there was not much of an emphasis on Google reviews. That has changed and evolved and become more and more increasingly important over the years. And if you're not focused, it doesn't matter about being focused on Google reviews. What matters is about being focused on service, because if you do not provide high quality, amazing, great legal service, you will die. Your business is going to die. It cannot survive at this point. Google will put you out of business. Now, if you're doing great service on the flip side, Google will elevate you. If you are providing great client experience, Google is going to make it easier for you to survive. You will pay less in Google ads per cost of ad than somebody that's providing bad service, because Google wants to send clients to people, to businesses that are being responsive. Google wants people to trust in the services of the businesses that it is recommending, promoting, putting in the prime real estate on the first page of web results. So if you are providing exceptional service, you've got a huge leg up. The other major change in terms of client experience is you have to provide great service. You have to go above and beyond. You have to be great at communication. You have to be kind of thinking through every stage of the client journey and making it easier, faster, less expensive, whatever it might be, to help your client along that journey. You have to be doing everything in your power to do that, because YouTube has changed the game when it comes to why any of us would hire somebody else to handle something. Now, what do I mean by that? So this is not really specific to YouTube itself, but I think that YouTube kind of provides the best example of this. I am not a handyman. I stink at home repair. I'm not a handyman. This is not a skill set of mine. If you need demolition done and you just need somebody to like break walls, perfect. I'm the guy that could help with that. If you need somebody to kind of work on a car, fix some part of the house, repair something, that's not going to be my specialty. But having said that, in the last few years, we have a couple of rental properties, at our house as well. I have changed out, multiple garbage disposals, changed out multiple dishwashers, other kind of, somewhat bigger picture project fixes, worked on dryers and washing machines and these type of appliances. And the reason I can do that is because if you take the specific model and make of any of those items, you plug it into YouTube and say, my dishwasher is leaking. The hose isn't connected right on this particular model. The jam in the garbage disposal. How do I replace whatever search terminology you want to put in, and the more specific you get with that, the more narrowed in you get in terms of your results. But it's all out there to be seen. It's all out there to be seen. Blogs did something very similar, right? You could search a question, look for a blog, get your answer. That has now been replaced with video explanations. And that video explanation is way more helpful, because not only is somebody describing how to do the fix or, kind of major things to be looking for, a blog is kind of not as specific. With the YouTube video, it's like there is a guy under the kitchen sink fixing the exact same garbage disposal as the one that you are replacing in your house. They're going to show you how to connect all the wires for the electrical part. They're going to show you exactly how to take that thing off. They're going to show you exactly how to put it on, make, suggestions for making sure that there's not any possible leaks. I mean, it's unbelievable how specific that they get on YouTube with that type of information. So every single client looking for legal services currently that's under the age of 60, is looking at services through that lens. Do I really need to spend several $100s for some guy to come out to my house and fix my garbage disposal? Or can I spend an hour with a YouTube video and do it myself? And that is how people are looking at legal services. Can I resolve my ticket without hiring a traffic lawyer? Can I resolve my DWI without a traffic lawyer? And I'll never forget, I had a client, this has probably been about 8 or 9 years back. She contacted me, very smart lady. I think she worked at the hospital. I did a full consultation with her. And then ultimately she just said, I think I'm going to try to do this alone. She said, what value do you think that a lawyer can provide in this situation? And I gave her kind of the explanation of, hey, if you want to make sure that every I is dotted, T is crossed, make sure that your limited driving privilege is 100% ready to go. Obviously, driving is going to be very important for your job. Again, although I believe at level 5 that you're facing, you're not looking at any jail time. It's something that you just don't want to have any hiccups come up in the courtroom. So, just having somebody there to make sure that there's no issues going on. I always recommend that even if somebody can't afford a lawyer, they request the court to appoint them one, because there's just so many things that can go wrong. And I remember seeing that same lady several weeks later in the courtroom, and she got the exact same result in the courtroom as I would have got standing next to her. She got her limited driving privilege sign. She had all of the documents, and she basically walked away without having to pay a lawyer a retainer fee for representation. Now, do I think that was a smart move in retrospect? Still, no, because her time is money just like everybody else. And she, I am sure, poured hours of time into basically looking at whether or how to get that limited driving privilege, what the court consequences were going to look like. I mean, I'm sure that this was a research model person. She put a ton of time into that. Also, could there have been issues that were through the discovery process? Because I'm positive she did not get any discovery. Could there have been issues with which her case could have been attacked and possibly not resulted in a conviction? I don't know. But those stones were never overturned. They were never looked under to see if there was any issues with the case. So there's reason still for her to have hired a lawyer, but didn't make any difference. In her case, she didn't hire a lawyer. She went through the process and she got the outcome that she was hoping for and expecting with no cost. Some people are just risk takers. There's a lot more people doing that now with speeding tickets than there are for high level crimes, but it's going to keep shifting in that scale. Why don't I just look to Nancy on YouTube, who basically just uploaded a video about how she handled her level 5 DWI case without a lawyer? That's scary sounding, isn't it? But that's going to happen. People are going to start posting videos online about, hey, I got charged with a DWI. I talked to several lawyers. They said it was going to be, $3,000 to $5,000 for their fee. Here's how I did it without a lawyer. Life hack. Boom. 7 minutes later, other person thinks that they know how to handle a DWI. So I'm telling you right now, this is the mindset that you are working against in a YouTube world. And that's only going to get, I don't know if you want to call it worse or better, because there's a lot of benefits of YouTube world. So, from a business perspective, we could look at it and say that it's worse. To some extent, it's like the more information that is out there, the better off we are. So again, worse or better, that's really not the point of this. It's just that's the reality of the situation that people are looking through that lens. So why should somebody hire you? Ultimately, client experience is going to become the X factor. It's not about delivering legal services. It's about the process, the communication, the experience of how you deliver those services. We are in the business now, not of criminal defense primary primarily, but in the business of providing the most exceptional, the best criminal defense client experience, period. What is part of that criminal defense client experience? Extremely high level representation. And that's always going to be the case. But that used to be the only point of reference, the only standard. I'm the best. I'm the best defense lawyer. Nobody cares now. I'm not kidding about that. Nobody cares if you are the best. Because if you're the best and you're an asshole, you're going out of business. You are absolutely going out of business. Google's going to put you out of business because people are going to tell the world that you are an asshole. You are in significant trouble if that is the thought process of I can just be the best criminal defense lawyer and I'll be solid gold. I don't need to have a client experience. Best possible representation is expected. The best client experience is going to win. So up the level of client experience in your firm if you want to thrive in the next 15 years. If you do not make client experience a part of your strategy, if you are not focused on improving that, you are going out of business. 15 years down the road, you will not exist if that is not part of your mentality and thought process and regular implementation system at your office. What used to be great client experience 10 years ago is not. It is mediocre at this point. In another 10 years, it'll be crappy service. 10 years ago, if you called somebody back within 48 hours as a lawyer, man, you're killer. Most people, what was the biggest complaint when I was coming out of law school for lawyers? My attorney won't call me back. This is like one of the number one complaints. That complaint will not exist. And it's not because the bar is going to disbar everybody that isn't responding within 48 hours. Literally, their businesses will die. 48 hours response time 10 years ago, great. Today, mediocre. Today, if you respond 48 hours after a client calls in, that's okay. Maybe really kind of on the poor side. 10 years from now, if you respond in 48 hours, you will call a client back and they'll say, I'm sorry, I've hired another attorney. Thanks for returning the call. But I've already gone with somebody else. They will not call you back. They will expect that somebody is going to communicate with them immediately. They already expect that. So currently, again, it's on the poor side of mediocre, but 10 years down the road, you will not exist if that is your mantra. All right. So client experience, number one. Number two, the speed of technology. And what I really call this is the speed of education. So again, 1994, the first lawyer website comes out. The first lawyer website is launched. How many hundreds of thousands of legal websites do you think exist in our day and age today? Unbelievable amount of lawyer websites. Now, here we are 30 years later. I mean, just the snap of a finger, really. Like, I mean, it's just so incredible, like what that change looks like over a 3-decade period. That can kind of sound like a long time, but that is a snapshot. I mean, that is nothing. First lawyer website, 1994. Now it's everybody's not only got a website, but they've got to have like a solid website to be competitive. So the speed of technology is ever increasing. And we all know that. Like, I'm not even going to give like any type of reference point for this particular point. It's like, how fast you have to stay up to speed on education. 2007, the first iPhone was released. So that's 2 years before I started practicing law. There have now been 40 some odd versions of the iPhone that have come down, 40 something updates to the iPhone since it was first released in 2007. The speed of technology, the speed of app development, the speed currently of AI is just off the charts. And to be competitive, to stay up to speed, to provide the type of client experience that we were just talking about, becoming a constant student of technology is going to be part of the game. It's going to be as important to, I'm not going to say as important. It's more important to a lawyer's professional success, and I don't mean just law firm owners, a lawyer's professional success. The understanding of how AI is utilized in all facets of the legal business is more important than CLE from a business perspective, from a survival perspective. Again, you got to do the CLE. There's no way around that. And you should not only be doing the CLE minimally in terms of what is mandated, you should be doing more CLE than is required by the bar. So this is not to put down CLE at all. Constantly being a student is like a number one priority in all aspects of the firm, but specifically when it comes to technology. And one of the main points I want to bring across here is that it's going to be so difficult to do this on your own. Now, maybe you're signing up regularly for webinars. Maybe you're figuring out kind of what the changes are that are coming down the pike, but you need to have somebody else that is going through this process with you, learning with you. You got to find another lawyer. You got to find a friend that is going through the same thing in their business and trying to figure out AI. You've got to find a coach, whoever it is that can help hold you accountable, but also showcase to you the technological advancements coming down the road and that you can bounce ideas off of and share information with. The speed of learning is too big for one person at this point. You've got to create or become a part of a mastermind group. And that's maybe a group of 2, maybe it's a group of 20. Size probably plays into it in terms of how much you're getting out of that particular group, but you got to find somebody else that is giving regular updates on AI. We are now currently our marketing director, Cole Maida, who is at the University of North Carolina in their MBA program, is regularly giving a monthly update in our team huddles on AI. And I think at first the question is like, why are we even learning this stuff? Because, this is kind of like Cole's area. What's what am I supposed to be utilizing with this? But just understanding the developments that are coming down the road when it comes to artificial intelligence is so powerful in terms of understanding the way that clients are going to be thinking about things, the types of technology that are out there for other businesses, the types of technology that are getting implemented within the legal industry. Just having a knowledge of the technology available is a huge leg up. Obviously, you want to utilize it in your firm as much as possible, but just understanding it in our current legal landscape is a huge leg up. You have got to make technology education a part of your calendar, a part of your schedule, because it is coming fast and furious. And as soon as you learn something about it, it is changing. And that doesn't mean to throw in the towel and just give up. You just have to stay aggressive when it comes to the technology coming down the pike. Because if you get on the front end of any legal technology, you're going to get it when it's at its cheapest. You're going to get it when it's at its biggest exponential value, because you're going to get ahead of everybody else diving into that technology. you have to make technology education a part of your habit and business routine. So number two, speed of technology. Number three, change is law firm ownership. Now, this might bring up a lot of like sore spot for people. This might be something where it's kind of like, non-lawyers should never own a firm. And, this is outrage that this would ever be suggested or happen. And I don't want to get too much into the political nature of this. What I do want to say is that law firm ownership by non-lawyers is happening currently, and it is changing the way that legal services are delivered. So let me just kind of get on a soapbox for 1 second before we dive in, because I do think it'll help provide some perspective. What is the like outrage over non-lawyer owners of a law firm kind of based around? Well, it's based around this idea that if you allow non-lawyers to operate law firms, that client service will suffer. Clients will get screwed. It will become this money game. Clients' rights will not be protected, and they'll be thrown into the gutter. Right? That's the kind of, I would say, primary concern and worry. And there may be some level of legitimacy to that concern. But from my perspective, every single person that owns a law firm is running a business. You're not running a charity organization if you own a law firm. You are not running a nonprofit. You are running a private sector business that is for profit. How do you maximize your profits? By delivering unbelievable service, by delivering unbelievable value. That's how you win in business. It's not by screwing people. Nobody wins by screwing people. I think that's like the negative mindset. Again, 30 years ago, before Google reviews, 30 years ago, before the internet, you could screw people. You could absolutely screw people and your business could continue. It cannot currently. And in fact, if you're not delivering great, exceptional service, you will not continue to be in business currently. So this idea that if we have non-lawyer owners and law firms, that there's just going to be clients getting screwed left and right, to me is just doesn't make sense. I mean, if you look at the way that businesses succeed and win, it's because they understand their clients need the best and they deliver exceptional service to provide for the need that they see in the marketplace. That's how great businesses win. So regardless of who is in charge of a business, if you're providing exceptional legal service with an exceptional experience, you're going to win in business. Doesn't matter who's in charge of that business. That business is going to succeed if it's providing high level value with a high level experience. Just period. That business is going to be at the top. So this idea that, oh my gosh, if the non-lawyers get in here, clients are all going to get screwed left and right, to me is just total. That doesn't. I don't believe in that argument. I think that makes no sense. If you screw clients, you will get in trouble for that. But really, almost more importantly, you will go out of business if you do that. I mean, if you do not protect your clients, they are going to tell other people that you suck, and then those people are not going to hire you. You're going to go out of business. If you suck, you will go out of business. If you deliver great service, you're going to go gangbusters in business. That's just business 101. I mean, it's simple, but it's something that I think we oftentimes can overlook. So, law firm ownership. This was proposed. Changes to this were proposed several years back in the North Carolina legislature. It didn't go anywhere, but the fact that it was even proposed, it's been put out there in our state to have some changes to the law firm ownership model. But here's the reason why, regardless of whether North Carolina adopts a non-lawyer change to ownership in law firms amendment to the current rules, here's the reason why law firm ownership by non-lawyers is going to change North Carolina's marketplace regardless. So reason number one, it's happening in other places. So vicariously, what is happening in other places? In other places, Utah, Arizona, Washington, D.C., non-lawyers are getting involved in the ownership structure of legal businesses. What does that mean? Well, it means that those businesses are going to change the way that they operate. They're going to become, in my opinion, better businesses. They're going to become better businesses. And so as those businesses get better, they are going to attract higher numbers of clients. They're going to increase in size and revenue. And so even entities that are still 100% lawyer owned are going to have to compete with those businesses, improve the client experience, up their game in those jurisdictions. But because we don't just operate in a world where we don't talk to each other, that is then going to have a trickle-down effect into other states. Even if there was no other states that adopted non-lawyer ownership, those three places having non-lawyer ownership allowance is going to, again, up the bar for everybody else. So we in North Carolina, by that fact, are already impacted by non-lawyer ownership. Again, we're competing constantly. We are competing constantly against Starbucks. We are competing constantly against the Hilton down the street. We are competing constantly with Nike, whatever it might be. Any type of other business that clients are interacting with, this is now like they're changing game. But when clients are interacting with a legal business, now there's an even deeper reference point of this is how a law business is supposed to act. So we're going to get compared with the best law businesses. I think we're going to get compared with just the best businesses that exist, which is why we're competing with every business in the marketplace. But obviously there's a niche with regards to legal services. And so we're competing against every other business that is acting in the legal space. And as that bar goes up, we got to up the ante. Even if law firm ownership rules in North Carolina don't change. Second reason, though, that this is particular to North Carolina is there are enough firms in North Carolina currently that are preparing for non-lawyer ownership. So what does that mean? For some people, there's like a defense mechanism probably going up in terms of like, okay, when the non-lawyers are allowed in, here's how we want to like kind of be defended against this kind of challenge to our status quo. Or on the flip side, you might have firms that are getting aggressive and saying, as soon as non-lawyer ownership is opening up, we're going to try to get private equity involved. And here's the connections that we need to start building. Doesn't matter. Regardless, currently and immediately, firms are preparing for non-lawyer ownership. So what does that mean? They're thinking about their businesses differently. There are so many CLEs now, and so many people talking about succession planning in law firm in a law firm space, which is basically, how do I kind of design a practice that can be sold, right? How do I design a practice that can be sold? Well, if now there is a lot more potential buyers or private equity gets involved and there's a bigger potential buyer, that thought process becomes much more important. I would say 30 years ago, if you were, basically a general practice solo firm practitioner, you practiced for 40 years. At the end of your 40 years, you said, okay, I'm not taking any more clients. Maybe for a brief period of time, you refer out some cases, and then eventually you just stop answering the phone. The phone line becomes disconnected, or nobody's answering, whatever it might be. It's just the business was there and now it's gone. And increasingly, in the time that I have been in practice, there has become more and more of a conversation about how do we build a law practice that can be sold, whether that is to another lawyer in a place where only lawyers are allowed to own law firms, or to a non-lawyer private equity group, or to somebody else that might be interested in kind of partnering or owning part of a law practice. Doesn't matter. People are thinking about how to sell their law firms in a way that they were not 2-3 decades ago. And again, how do you sell your law firm for top dollar? You create an incredible business that people want to come and utilize that business's services. If you have a crappy business, it is not going to get sold easily. If you have an unbelievable business, it's going to be a lot easier to sell that business. So again, the ante is getting upped on that front by everybody, because in order to be able to build a practice that can be sold down the road, you have to have an unbelievable business that is just crushing it. So what does that mean? It means that everybody that is in that model, in that train of how do I build a practice that ultimately I can sell, is doing so on the basis of putting in the best systems, having the best hiring process and the best people on their team, utilizing the best software, staying cutting edge on technology, making sure that they are providing the absolute best representation by having people within the firm crushing it when it comes to knowing the nuances of whatever niche of law that you are operating in. This is how you win at business. So again, it's just the leveling up of what you've got to do within the office space. What do you have to do to provide that next level of service? So again, those are just a couple of takeaways, thoughts that I have about the changes coming down the pike in the practice of law. Ultimately, what do you have to work on? You have to work on improving your business, making it the best that it can possibly be, improving the client experience, definitely having a major focal point on technology, so that down the road, at whatever point you decide this is not what you're going to be doing anymore, you have the opportunity to sell that practice. These are the types of things that we will be talking about, both in terms of hearing from great speakers and as a group at the Freedom Fighter Summit next month, September 26th and 27th. So if these are topics that you're concerned about, topics that you want to remain kind of on the cutting edge of, no better place if you're handling North Carolina criminal defense work to be than in Asheville at the Freedom Fighters Summit next month. Go to freedomfighters.law for more information on that front. I hope to see you at the Freedom Fighters Summit, and I look forward to speaking with you again next time.